diving deeper into your overall content creation process, like what types of videos did you start making, and what do you think is that inflection point to really motivate you to transition from just being a consumer of YouTube to being a producer of, creating videos?
At the age of 9, I had my own phone. I started creating TikToks, or back then they called it Musical.ly, and I had such a passion for music and video editing and content creation that app was instantly my app. I would be on that app every day, shooting videos, lip syncing. And as a kid, I'd probably consider that so cringe. I've learned to really embrace the concept of cringe because it shows me how much I've grown.
I personally feel like I have a very similar story, but I wasn't really on TikTok. I started out with playing, football cards as a young kid. I was a huge football fan, looking at these football stars, you always want to be one of them, right? And then started collecting football cards, and then I actually very funnily started buying and selling them on Carousel. So that was about when I was like 8 to 10 years old. I was like first into the market. I didn't really know anything about buying or selling. I only saw people, doing these transactions online, which was super interesting.
I've done a lot of marketing, and I was able to actually be in one of the marketing advertisements for my school because I was the head of marketing for my school's Model UN team. This experience was so fun for me as someone that loves branding and loves seeing advertisements. It was so surreal to see myself in one of my school advertisements.
Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Z Stories. For those who knows us at the Gen Z Fastlane, we have slightly rebranded our channel, so give us 30 seconds and we'll tell you the entire new plan to deliver amazing content to you guys. So this name Z Story is basically talking about how we're trying to convey more Gen Z stories and share it to the world. So for example, today we will have Jasmine Bai from HKIS, who is currently 16 years old, doing amazing things in the marketing world, come onto the podcast and share deep dive into her story of getting started, as well as diving deep into our calendars, into our timeline, into these little tricks and tips that entrepreneurs or founders would share with each other. So then you can also implement some of these tips and tricks into your life and find it relatable and also useful. So that's what we're trying to aim towards, more of this storytelling and building a relatable community with Z Stories. Thank you guys for your time, and let's get straight into the podcast. So Jasmine, you're currently class of 26 of HKIS, doing lots of multiple marketing clubs, and we'll get deep into that later on. But just as a starting point, just looking back at your photo album, could you pick out several experiences that you can still deeply remember because it resonated with you so much and really shaped your identity and the person that you are today?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so you guys can see my photos that I'm going to share. So this photo is my first ever time attending Columbia University's online marketing a summer program that was 2 to 3 weeks long. I don't quite remember. Taught by Professor Gabriela Gambrell, who is actually an NYU graduate professor for the School of Business. So this course was called Columbia University's Communicating with Consumers course. So over 2 weeks, we learned about how businesses communicate with their customers and consumers. We learned about public relations and how to actually market a product, and how social media grows a brand a lot more efficiently now than how it used to. But I feel like from this photo, it taught me a lot about what I wanted to do when I grow up. It taught me a lot about content creation and how branding is really important. And this kind of reminded me about how when I was a kid, I would, make videos and YouTube videos when I was bored and during COVID. But I feel like this video was it told me a lot about myself and who I wanted to be in the future after attending this program during my freshman year.
Awesome. So diving deeper into your overall content creation process, like what types of videos did you start making, and what do you think is that inflection point to really motivate you to transition from just being a consumer of YouTube to being a producer of, creating videos?
Yeah, so at the age of 9, I had my own phone. I started creating TikToks, or back then they called it Musical.ly, and I had such a passion for music and video editing and content creation that app was instantly my app. I would be on that app every day, shooting videos, lip syncing. And now, although as a kid I'd probably consider that so cringe, I've learned to really embrace the concept of cringe because it shows me how much I've grown. But, since the age of 9, I've been creating TikToks, I've been doing lip syncs, I've been doing dances, I've been sharing about my daily life. And that's grown from when I was 9 years old, when I was practically um, not even a middle schooler yet, to now me being in high school and almost graduating in a year. But another thing that was really important to me was creating content on a long term. So during COVID, I had no idea what to do with millions of people staying home. No one knew what to do. No one knew what to do with their time. So as a middle school kid, I would be on my laptop every day on Zoom calls for school, and I'd be scrolling on YouTube, scrolling on Instagram, to a point where I just wanted to make my own YouTube channel. I saw so many awesome influencers creating their own content that I was like, wow, I really want to create my own content. And even though it might be boring content, I wanted to start somewhere. So by the age of maybe 11 to 12, I picked up my camera, I started recording, and I would record little snippets of my life, days of my life where I'd be at home, um, doing my Zoom classes, and I'd take my camera along with me and the viewers that would be watching, and I'd show them what I'd be doing on a daily basis at home. And that kind of ended up extending into, me going out with my friends and videoing videos of them hanging out and climbing on rocks and having fun with them. But then at some point, I kind of stopped that and I kind of wanted to go into more of a more efficient route of creating content. And throughout the years, Instagram and TikTok have been really on the stream of reels and shortened videos. So now at the age of 16, instead of running maybe a lip sync content account on TikTok that was made by a 9 year old, I'm now making content about the days of my life, what I've been doing, my well being process of coping with, relationships and academic stress. And that one account on Instagram that I create reels about almost weekly has gained more than 200 followers and more than 30,000 views a month. So it's definitely grown from, me being a 9 year old kid filming TikToks to this amount of views on a video. And, I don't really care about the views, but I just really enjoy creating content that people watch. And I love seeing people come up to me and be asking me in class, oh, when are you going to make a next video? When are you going to make the next one? Can I be in one? And I honestly enjoy the creative aspect of being able to create things that not just market like who I am as a person, but market my identity and who I am around people that I value. Um, but I feel like, seeing so much progress from when I was 9 years old to now, it's crazy that this is what I definitely want to do when I grow up, which is marketing and creating content for brands and myself. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely shaped a lot about who I am now.
Awesome. That's a really nice story, and I really like how you emphasize on the aspect of just being passionate about something, like not really caring about views and just doing something that you personally like. I mean,
Always.
I personally feel like I have a very similar story, but I wasn't really on TikTok. But I started out with playing, football cards as a young kid. I was a huge football fan. Looking at these football stars, you always want to be one of them, right? And
Yeah.
then started collecting football cards, and then I actually very funnily started buying and selling them on carousel. So that was about when I was like 8 to 10 years old. I was like first into the market. I didn't really know anything about buying or selling. I only saw people, doing these transactions online, which was super interesting. So I decided to also create a YouTube channel to document opening these packs. So what I will do is actually just come home from school, right? And then I would open these packs, and then if I pulled something really good, I would post it on Carousel, start selling it. And when people decided to buy it for like $20, $30, then I would mail and package the cards, place the stamps on it. And at that time, my parents didn't really like me doing these because they wanted me to focus more on academics, the classic Asian parents. But I still did it behind their backs. So I would bring the envelopes and walk up to school and place it in the mailbox, which was some really good memories before. And at the same time, I also was really into video gaming, right? I think many people here watching who are Gen Zs, they probably experienced playing video game at a certain point in their age. For me, it was FIFA Mobile. So it was also, FIFA itself, huge into football. Decided to also create a YouTube channel to document all of our gameplays. At the end, we built a community of 4,000 subscribers, which was actually amazing. Millions of views, and then hundreds of Discord members who are all super passionate into just playing the game itself. And a very funny thing is why I actually stopped continue pursuing it, which was about, I would say, nearly 2 years ago already, is because I realized that number one, like YouTube wasn't really paying me much. And at that time I was really into like, being a big creator, right? Like, pursuing that American dream of just, dropping out and stuff like that. But I realized, it was so much harder to actually monetize in like especially a gaming niche. And number two was I always knew that I wanted to challenge myself further, right? After you build a community of 4,000 people, I always knew there was something, there was like a next step waiting for me. So I decided to stop and really just re-explore everything that I wanted to do and jump more into the marketing thing, which really made me pursue this whole, marketing agency and all of the other entrepreneurship businesses that I've started. So that's pretty super interesting. So a common trend that I've identified with both of our stories is actually how we just wants to learn. We're just curious, right? Like
Yeah.
especially with Gen Zs, it's super important to craft your own path. Like I know it sounds so generic and probably too commonly used, but really it's just about just looking back into your childhood and seeing what you personally liked and then just replicating that in form of a larger impact or at a larger scale. So
hmm
at the end of the day, it's really all about, just doing something that you enjoy. So Jasmine, it would be great if you could also share like another one of your images and another story as well.
Yeah, so I think these ones are going to be a lot more recent images. So the next one I'm going to be sharing you is the first ever advertisement I modeled for. So, I've done a lot of marketing and I was able to actually be in one of the marketing advertisements for my school because I I was the head of marketing for my school's Model UN team. Um, and this experience was so fun for me as someone that loves branding and loves seeing advertisements. It was so surreal to see myself in one of my school advertisements, which is actually now posted up in a SCMP International School Handbook that I got from my marketing department actually recently. And it was so cool because I was the front I was the front page, and it was like an advertisement for my school. And this process took such a long time, although it took maybe a day out of my academic career. It was so fun to see how this developed into something a lot bigger from one photo to a big advertisement for my school. It was really cool to be along the journey, and it's really cool to like see all the edits they made. And it's always really nice and appealing to like see your face in an advertisement, but I never thought I'd ever like make it into maybe like a school advertisement. So this was definitely like a big memory for me in doing this. I remember being super scared and super nervous going into this. And by the end of it, I met the whole entire school's marketing department. I became really close with them, talking about my journey about Model UN. And yeah, it's just it's a great photo. I mean, I've definitely changed a lot, but it's a great photo to always look at.
I mean, speaking about these opportunities as well,
Mhm.
what were some of the core strategies that you had when applying to these clubs or just reaching out to, multiple different organizations?
So in in my opinion, it is never wrong to start early. So, right after I'd say my first ever Columbia University course, that was an experience that I held really close to me, and I would always like kind of market that to maybe faculty and show like faculty and students what else I've been doing, like all high schoolers have been doing at this point of time, especially when college applications have to start and you're worried about what you want to do in the future. Find like I found out what I wanted to do early on, but I know that's not the same experience for a lot of people. But for me, it's just gaining the connections and gaining valuable relationships with students and peers. And it is completely okay to ask for your parents' help on what you want to do in the future because they're your parents and they'll always give you insight. So my mom's actually the head of marketing for JP Morgan here in Hong Kong, and
Nice.
I feel like from her, I feel like I may have wanted to embody her as a kid, and that ended up being really what I wanted to be in the future because after learning like, oh, I love social media so much and I really want to start creating content, my mom would tell me that is my job. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And I someday hope to, take over her job as head of marketing somewhere, maybe for a fashion brand. But it is always okay to gain connections, communicate with people about what you love to do, and to start your own thing. So I actually kind of started my own little freelance marketing agency. It hasn't fully taken off yet, but I started that around freshman year. And it is always completely okay to start your own thing and to get your friends interested in it too. So I'd say definitely communication and just gaining valuable relationships with people that you may feel uncomfortable with because those people are going to be genuine connections that you'll someday have later on. And I think that's the most important thing when it comes to, gaining experience.
Yeah, definitely 100% agree. So, with your entire experience, like, starting going into marketing and everything like that, of course, we're still in our high school years. So, were there some times when you had to sacrifice, I guess, like, your academics or your sleep just so you can pursue your passion projects?
Definitely. So, as you know, I am now the former head of marketing for HKIS MUN, my Model UN group. Especially as a junior now, who is again taking the SAT, figuring out what college I want to go to. There's definitely priorities that need to be set straight, and I think academics is always a really big one. That's why I always recommend a lot of high school students to maybe start figuring out what they want to do early on in their maybe end of freshman year and start of sophomore year because that in between helps give you a lot of experience in what you want to do and helps you start a bridge about on what you might want to do long term. So yes, unfortunately, I did have to give up my role for head of marketing for Model UN, but I still love seeing the person that did takeovers, advertisements, and reels online. Um, but I think when it comes to trying to keep them separate, it is really hard, academics and your passion. But at the end of the day, if you're really struggling at something, you really need to focus on that thing. And I think, academics is always important as a high schooler, and it's always okay to take a break. So I'd say it's always okay to take a break and, don't let your passion fall out of your head, but always have it somewhere in your heart. If
Nice.
that
I mean,
makes
here's
sense.
something interesting about my personal experience, which I feel like is some people might think that it's crazy, but
Hmm.
I don't think I'm crazy. Like I feel like everyone has their own, I guess, like uniqueness. So what actually, like, I'm just gonna tell you a very short story. So what happened last year was that I was running a lead gen agency targeted for US clients. So
Mm.
at that time we peaked at, I would say, about like 6 to 7 clients, and then we had to do weekly check-in calls. So because they were at US time, it means that it is our nighttime, right? So what
Yeah.
I had to do was wake up super early at like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. nearly every single day, every single week to just check in with these clients, which was super fascinating. So to a certain point, I did sacrifice a bit of school by taking like leaves
Oh no.
to take these calls, or I just wasn't getting enough rest. So I really think it's about just getting, yeah, your priorities straight. Like, would I have regrets? doing things I've done previous years. I think with the stories, like there are definitely more extreme stories, such as me being in the bathroom for 40 minutes long for a specific reason. But I think I'll explain those stories later on. But I mean, like with these experiences, I feel like it's the best time to take risks are really when you're young, because when you're young, like right now, you have lots of time. And when you grow older, like you have university and you have other stuff to care about, you really don't have much time flexibility. So really just, I guess, like hone in to whatever you really enjoy doing. And I think the problem with many of Gen Z's right now is our attention spans, right? Like we're being distracted by so many different things with social media and stuff like that. So just on the personal experience, I don't really have like the Instagram app installed on my phone. I only have the LinkedIn app, mainly because I
Mhm.
find it's too addicting to just click on it and you could easily see everyone's reels. So, Jasmine, for yourself, are there any specific tools or stories that you have used to basically avoid these distractions or try to focus when you have to really lock in and get stuff done?
Um, I think for me, like social media is such a big part of my life, that it's so hard to kind of push it away. So, like for example, when I study, I tend to stagger my time. I'll always try to put my phone away somewhere, but of course I take breaks within my studying hours. Um, I think the biggest thing for me is always remembering to be in the present moment. Like when you're at lunch with your friends, don't be on your phone scrolling through social media. As someone that loves marketing and creating content, video editing and creating content can be taken um, at a time where you're not with friends or you're not with family. So I think for me, it's always remembering that being in the present moment is what matters the most. And gaining memories from the people around you is so much better than gaining memories when you see like people doing things on Instagram and just doom scrolling continuously for hours. Um, Academics wise, again, set your priorities straight. You want to look ahead in the future and know what you want to do and have a strong goal for yourself. And if you're always going to be doom scrolling, that goal is going to slowly become harder to reach. So I always remember to myself, like, I want to get into this university. I want to make myself proud. I want to end up in the place where I want to be in the future. And I feel like that motivation helps me separate social media and content creation into living into the present moment.
I think something super interesting that I'm just thinking about is like the differentiation between creating these memories versus long-term thinking. So, for example, if we put you in
Mhm.
a scenario where your friends tell you to hang out tomorrow, and but then you realize that you have one of your marketing projects or something due, like, would you rather hang out with your friends but realize that you're gonna have like an over over overdue marketing project because you can make an excuse to yourself that you're still creating, memories, things that you're going to remember later on? Or would you rather like think long term and really just pursue, building yourself and, doing these content creation? Because normally these content creation stuff, like when it requires editing, and it will mostly be you doing it yourself, right? Like you're probably going to be on your computer for a couple hours just doing the editing and doing the copies or whatever you're doing.
Mhm.
So, like, what is your overall metric to decide whether or not it's the right time to, I guess, hang out with friends and just experience the moment versus obviously, pursuing these long-term goals?
So I feel like when it comes to the people I work with, I am super fortunate and super lucky to have people that I'm able to communicate my problems to. So again, I work with the marketing department at my school and we have maybe projects almost every single day. And of course, there are some times where things aren't going to be done on time. And the biggest thing for me is I think communication is really important when working with a team, when working with yourself, and again, communicating to your friends and family if you're going to be available. So, um, of course, I'm always going to pick my family and friends over the work I do, especially if it's on a weekend. I know to always prioritize my academics and my job as someone that loves marketing during the weekdays, but over the weekend, of course, I'll study from time to time, but I will always prioritize like my friends and creating memories with them because that's not going to last forever. Um, but I think for me at least, I'm really lucky to be able to communicate if I ever need an extension, and I know I'm very responsible when it comes to deadlines. So I think again, communicating with your boss or whoever you work with or whoever you're collaborating with, whether it's a student, a teacher, a parent, or just a person you work with, it's always important to communicate to them what you're going to get done if it is overdue. Um, how are you going to get it done, when you're going to let them know it's going to be finished, and if they can review the project that you're working on, so you can have that time to spend time with your friends. So for me, I think it's the biggest thing is separate school life to an academic life and work life, um, versus like your friends and your family, because of course your family and your friends are always important. So I will always hold my friends and family on weekends, and of course like school and business on weekdays. But again, communication, if a deadline is due, is always important.
Yeah, definitely. I also like how you emphasize on the point of just family, right? Because like family, you're not going to be here forever. You're probably going to graduate high school soon. You're not going to be able to see them for so long.
Hmm.
So really prioritizing those memories are super important. And I think another aspect of, just this topic is just being open to working with someone else, because I feel like on the media right now, like there are so many people who are emphasizing on, solo founders, right? People who are going to own 100% of your company and keep all of
Hmm.
the profits. But again, like these people that we're seeing online are full-time entrepreneurs, most of them, right? They're in their 20s, 25, some they're already in university or they're already finished with college. They have so much time on their hands. That's why they might be even able to scale a company like that. But as a high school student, the best thing that I think me and Jasmine can also agree on is just finding people who have the similar passion, but I guess like complementary skill sets. So for example, if you're going to build like a startup and you have more of a business background like myself, but you don't really know, lots of coding, rather than learning how to code, because you obviously still have school on the other hand, and learning how to code may take you another 6 months. Why not just find someone who is already, an expert in coding, but might not have the business skills, and partner with them together, and you guys can split equally, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is to just get experience out of your startup, right? I think that's a
Yeah.
really good point to emphasize on. And talking about experiences, I seen that on LinkedIn. You've done like lots of different positions, right? You were doing like wealth
Yes.
management, MUN, graphic design for Unite Mental Health, digital marketing intern, PR manager, social media manager, and many more. So, out of these positions, what are, I would say, like a few stories that really stuck with you with that position, or really opened your eye as to like, you thought that this position will be doing this thing, but then when you went into this position, you're completely doing something else, if so?
So I think one of the two that really come to my head was working with, for example, an international organization. So I am a social media manager, social media head for an international organization called Dear Asian Youth, which basically is an organization that, again, promotes cultural heritage and cultural importance to the Asian ethnic group. Um, our Instagram currently has over 90,000 followers, I believe, and I have to manage that account with another social media manager named Minan, who goes to Cornell. Um, I feel like, again, when working with an international organization, it is very stressful. As much fun as I have, it can be very stressful to set times to meet, and especially with working with multiple people in this social media department, everyone lives everywhere. So I have to have meetings every Monday at 7:30 in the morning. Right when I get to school, I head to my Starbucks. I sit down at the table and I will do my meeting for an hour till school starts, which is at 8:30. So I'm really right on the clock when it comes to me coming into school and everything. Um, and timing wise, it's really stressful. I mean, I would have roles and assignments where I'd need to post something at this exact time, like at 12 p.m. Eastern time, and that would be my 12 a.m. on a Tuesday. And of course, I prioritize my sleep, and I feel like communicating to your managers like that. Oh, this is gonna be really really late. I don't think I'm gonna get enough sleep. Can we maybe accommodate a way for me to post this at a different date is really important because you should always prioritize your mental health. But I feel like working with an international organization is super fun. I've learned so much experience from them, and controlling an account this big, and reposting content that we've been creating. So I feel like I've gained a lot of experience from them. We've hosted events like Dear Asian Careers, which was a event in New York City that we had to promote, hosted and created by Dear Asian Youth, the organization, where we would help students find careers that contribute to maybe the ethnic minority role of Asians, and we bring in students and individuals that work in different job departments like STEM, business, um, literature, and they would be doing webinars throughout the 3 days of the event. And students would get to learn more about how their role as an Asian individual contributes to their job and their own role as maybe someone that works in science and business or in literature, right? So I think that's a really big one. Another one I definitely remember is working with my Model UN group on my first ever like event planning for my Model UN conference, my school Model UN conference. There's so much backstage work that I never realized after doing that role, but when I did that role, I felt like I learned so much. I created more than 700 placards for delegates. I made 3 to 4 reels and more than like 10 posts that gained more than, I believe, 60,000 views in total. And, it's really big achievements, but there's so much planning process that goes behind it that we don't tend to appreciate. And I think that's why I love marketing so much, because you think of it as such a little role, but you do so much in it. So I think those are definitely two memories that I really remember still.
Awesome. So speaking about like obviously like doing multiple projects at the same time is really stressful. So I always
Mhm.
believe that the fundamental of being successful in all of these roles is just building systems, right? Building systems that you
Yes.
can rely on every single day, having daily
Mhm.
routines, nighttime routines, or just having a period of time where you know what you want to do. So for
Mhm.
yourself, if you could share, actually, I can actually share first. So if I can
Sure.
actually share my screen, I'll just show you and share with
Mhm.
all of the viewers some of the actually my calendar view for this week.
Mm.
Yeah, let me know when you can see my screen.
Yep. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a bit fascinating when you look at it. It's not as bad as it was previously. I think if I went back to let's see, went back to like May. Yeah, there were lots of stuff like going on later on. But just going back to
Mm.
today, how I would say I would shape my day for myself is I find myself as like a really early person. Like I can really work really well in the morning. At night, I feel really tired, so I will place myself to morning routine at like 5 a.m. What includes in my morning routine is basically doing meditation, journaling, those things, just really getting your day straight, right? And then
Mhm.
after that, I'm gonna have like an hour of consumption block. So this is the time when I would consume content. So for example, if I was gonna film another video on that day, or some kind of short, then I would try and scroll through inspiration because I believe marketing and content creation really needs ideas in your head, right, in order to be able to build anything. Right after
Mhm.
that, I'll have either a creation time or some meeting. So, for example, if I think Jasmine, you scheduled this podcast to be about like 6:30 in the morning, so we would actually have this. I would consider this as a consumption time, right? Learning from other people. I think one of the
Mhm.
huge benefits of just having the internet right now compared to 20 years ago is being able to connect with so many like-minded individuals. around the world, right? So just building a LinkedIn profile. Um, I'm gonna try not to speak too long because I'm gonna create like a longer series on how I grew my LinkedIn profile, and you probably include some
Mm,
tips from Jasmine as well. But just overall, just putting yourself out there. So back to the routine. I would go to school at about 8:40. I'm actually pretty fortunate to live just right below the hill. So my school is actually just on the hill. So I just walk up to school every single day. Quick sprints in the morning. Classes start from 9 to I'll say like 3:30. After that, I'll have like a 1 hour school block, and then afterwards, I'll have probably something scheduled depending on what is going on that day, and then management time and ideation time. So management time is like doing the low brainer stuff. So I like to do that at the end of the day, so then you don't waste so much brain power. And then ideation time is just thinking about stuff. And from 8 to 9, so that's about 30 minutes. I will have like a no light time where I just sit down, read. I really like to read and just chillax for the day and then go to sleep at 9. So sometimes, obviously, these routines does not entirely work because things come up, especially when you're in high school. You have like so many tests, stuff. I actually have a test on this Friday, like a math. So that's gonna be really stressful. But overall, it's just really good to know what you want to do at what time as well. And normally, actually, one thing I want to point out before we switch to word Jasmine, I know I'm talking a lot, but um,
no, you're okay.
on Sundays, I really like to prioritize like family time. So, for example, we would have fun Sundays where basically like the entire family would choose a place to go. So mostly it would be hiking because I'm a big hiker. So we would go to, Sai Kung or wherever place we want, like the peak or something, and just spend our entire day there, just, bonding with each other, as I think is a super important time, especially when, we're all surrounded by the media every single day. That's a bit about my schedule.
I have to say your schedule is a lot more impressive than mine. So, for me, a way to stay organized is making to-do lists, but I do
Yeah.
love my Google Calendar to death. Um, I will always make a list of what homework I need to do throughout the day, what meetings I have to do throughout the week, and I'm super lucky because as a junior, I run my own meetings as a photography club leader. So I'm able to schedule that and communicate that without having too much stress on my schedule. But I can show you guys my general um,
Awesome.
school
Yeah.
calendar. So you can see this? Amazing. So
Yeah.
I am a very early person. I'm always known as an early bird, and it is not by choice, but I wake up at 5:30 in the morning because I live super far away. For a rule for me is I always get up an hour before I need to get out of the house because I like to take my time getting ready. I like to take my 1 hour at 5:30 in the morning to breathe, go outside on my terrace and look at the view and breathe in some air. Since I'm taking AP Psych right now, I've been learning that actually being outside of your house for 15 minutes and just looking up
Mhm.
at the sky um, helps improve your circadian rhythm and helps you wake up.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that a lot. But as you can see, this is kind of like my schedule. It is quite light. Um, but Mondays are always packed. So I always have my sync day, which is my Dear Asian Youth meeting in the morning at 7:45, and that again takes around an hour. I'll have my classes, and then usually when I get home, I either have a class that I haven't scheduled for this month because this month is almost over, but I'll either schedule a class that I have to go to or I'll have a meeting. So my school runs from 8:35 to 3, and usually either that after 3 p.m. I'll either go home, attend office hours for any work that I do need to do, or I need to ask a clarifying question to my teacher, or a club meeting. So that is generally my schedule. But as a student that does take three APs, it's quite stressful. So I like to give myself a lot of time to kind of rejuvenate my energy through the evening. So I always set a time where I tend to do a lot of my schoolwork from 7:30 to 10, and then I'll do a 30-minute grace period where I'll maybe read, call a friend of mine. Um, and then I usually go to sleep by around 10:30. Because again, I prioritize sleep, and as someone that has to wake up at 5:30 in the morning is not always the most great thing in the world. But that is generally how I use my time. Again, making to-do lists for me is something really important. So today, for example, I have a to-do list of what homework I need to do, and also this meeting that I'm attending and this interview for this podcast. So for today, I had my 4 classes. I had homework for each, and then I split up my time from the time I have when this podcast ends or when I get home to when I go to sleep, and I divide that into how much homework I have, and I tend to do that. But that is a really good way for me to stay organized. Yeah, hopefully that helps.
Awesome. I feel like even like having a simple system is better than having no system. So
I
like
agree.
it
Yeah.
really depends on the individual as well, because sometimes when I just look at that calendar, it might be overwhelming. So like having like such a filled calendar might not be, the best in specifically for yourself. But
Hmm.
I mean, just try and find what works, because I actually have like changed my entire, routines like couple of times for the past year or so. So it's just all about testing, right? I always believe like in high
Hmm.
school, it's not only about testing what you want to do in life, but also testing how you want to live it. So
Yeah.
I think a really good point that we both brought up in our calendars is actually just getting that morning sunlight, right? Because I think it's really unemphasized, especially in Hong Kong when there's not much sun. Just going outside, just right after you wake up, really helps wake yourself up. Because I always notice that so many of my classmates, they fall asleep in class, and they always
Hmm.
complain, why do I feel so sleepy in the morning? Like, why? Obviously, if you get like 2 hours of sleep or 3 hours of sleep at night, that's probably one reason, right? But if you're getting like consistently 6, 7 hours and you're still feeling tired, number one, maybe try drinking coffee. For me, I really like drinking tea.
Yeah.
um, or number two, like just getting natural sunlight into your eye, I think is really good for your circadian rhythm. And I think I watched Andrew Huberman. He's like really good
Hmm.
in like health and stuff. So we'll recommend that to anyone as well. So yeah, just summarizing this podcast, like just in general, like let's talk a bit about, I would say, some like future vision or like future purpose with life. So for yourself, like where do you see yourself, I guess, in the next 10 years, and what do you really want to accomplish in life? Obviously, we've probably thought about that for quite a while. So
Oh, of
just
course.
a general idea.
So I've had a pretty set straight future since I was maybe a freshman in high school. Um, I've been living in Hong Kong for all of my life. I was born here. I've been based in an urban environment, a metropolitan environment where it's the bustling city, and I've always had the dream to live in New York City. So I do hope, as maybe the future uh, class of 2030, I can attend New York University or Columbia University in New York City. Hopefully, pursuing a communications, marketing, or public relations major. But I've actually never been to New York City, and I feel like my friends always ask me, and my family always asks me, why do you want to live in New York City? You've never been to New York City. It's so stinky, it's nasty, it smells bad, like it's just not a great environment. And to me, I see so much opportunity in New York City, even though I've never been there. So, me, I want to study, hopefully, again, business marketing, or even less broad than that, fashion marketing. And New York City is such a hub of fashion, of finance, that I feel like I really do hope to see myself there in the future with a little apartment that I personally would enjoy and love, and be going to classes every day with studying fashion while having great fits on my like outfits on myself. And of course that's going to take time, but that is truly my dream. I think to live in New York City and to be a New Yorker, even though I've lived in Hong Kong my whole life, I feel like I would really fit in there.
Awesome. So like just extending on that question, because I've spoken to so many individuals, on the podcast and on their purpose
Mhm.
and passion and stuff like that. Like some people, they would do what they are doing based on their, insecurity, right? All of us would face some sort of childhood trauma, and I feel like it's definitely, inevitable, right? You're obviously,
Mhm.
like, let's be honest here, like as a Gen Z, you're probably gonna dislike your parents in some sort of ways, but obviously still love them a lot because they're our parents, right? So
Mhm.
for yourself, if you don't mind actually sharing, what do you think are some of the things which you want to, let's frame it this way, what are some things that you want to, I guess, um pursue in the future, mainly because I wouldn't say like trauma, but you really think there is a certain opportunity over there as well. Like, so either than fashion, right? Like, what do you think is
So,
missing, right?
okay, so another thing I've always been interested in is relationships with others. I know I don't think I'm gonna really be able to go into a job like that. I've been talking to my friends. I'm like, why isn't there a major about love and relationships other than psychology, which is what I'm studying right now. Um, I feel like my family. My mom is a single mom who works really hard. She's the head of marketing for J.P. Morgan. She's made a name for herself. Um, that I feel like we have a different family dynamic from what other people may have on a regular basis, and I'm actually really grateful for that because I've learned so much from having such a different family dynamic than a lot of other people. So I feel like if I had like a little dream about what I've learned without having the fashion marketing and the business, it would be really learning more about relationships and like a way to heal from maybe a breakup, um, and communicating with others about relationships, because I feel like connections are super important in life. And if you don't have enough of them, it's really hard to kind of be happy and to, have a fulfilling life, unless you love being independent, which I fully support because, independence is always important. But I feel like, learning more about maybe relationships and people would also be really something I'd be really interested in, and especially with my family dynamic.
Awesome. Yeah, I always believe like, yeah, relationships are definitely number one, and especially with the internet and stuff, people are saying we're becoming the most disconnected generation ever. So
Yeah.
maybe to a certain extent, yes, but it really is how you're going to use technology at the end of the day. Like, I always believe
Hmm.
like you always have one life. For me, it's pretty similar. Like, I think I have a pretty good like family dynamic. I'm pretty happy with my parents most of the time. Or if you, I guess if you're not happy with your parents, you should look at more like the positive side, right? Because there's always two lenses in life,
Hmm.
like one positive, one negative. But just
Yeah.
always just putting on a smile is super important, right? Because if when you smile, you will make other people smile as well to a certain
Hmm.
extent. So
Yeah.
just having that positive, you know light in life is super important. And I think for me, let's also share, like, I guess, like the biggest advice that we've heard, because there's no point of, I guess, coming up with our own advice, because I guess we'll be repeating from someone else. So the biggest advice that I've heard, or that I really live up to, is to focus more on the journey rather than the destination. I think it's really emphasized a lot, but really, at times, like, just looking back at everything that we've accomplished. Like, I know for you it's going to be lots of marketing. For me personally, it's many different things, right? Like, just looking back at it, it's, even though we may not have accomplished results that we may have wanted, it's really about the relationships that we've built. And I know,
Hmm.
like, many millennials, if any millennials are still watching in the 47th minute, they're probably going to disagree. And I mean, no disrespect to that, mainly because, it's all about childhood trauma. Like, if, like, however your parents are acting, then you're going to be like that type of person. But I think we always forget about, just enjoying the present moment, as you've said previously, and just focusing more on the destination. Everyone just wants to get top scores, but just thinking about what you're passionate about and just pursuing it in life, I think, is the biggest opportunity with the internet right now. Like, you can post like music videos, art videos, and really blow up easily. And I think
Yeah.
it's really a gift that, if there's a God up there, probably, I mean, I'm Catholic myself, so that God has given us here to this day. So that's going to be my biggest advice for anyone, which is just to get started. I think getting started is the hardest part as well. So
Yeah. I completely agree with you on that one. Mm, okay, if I had to give advice to whoever's listening to this podcast right now, it would be that things take time and you're not going to be able to start something until you actually start it. So if you've always had this idea of creating a brand, of, making YouTube videos or, making a startup, it doesn't hurt to start now because at some point in time you're going to push it and push it away. And you know what? You might as well start it now when you have no experience because people can help you. Then let it go into just pure imagination and just a dream that may never come. So for me, I think the biggest advice is if you're scared to start, that's the best time to start because that's when you grow the most, that's when you learn the most, and that's what's going to push you to do even better in the future. So yeah.
Awesome. I think for any Gen Zs who are still listening to this, like really, like literally just stop watching the podcast and just, if you're not building anything or working on any projects right now and you really wanted to do it, just brainstorm the next couple of steps that you can take, right? And if you're feeling stuck, just feel free to message, Jasmine or myself, whoever you feel more comfortable talking to. And we're happy to help out. Like, I'm pretty sure many people,
Always.
like you wouldn't know, are actually more than happy to speak to a younger individual or someone who's in a similar age and help them out, but they just don't realize it, right? So
Hmm.
just approach us, or just send us a screenshot of whatever action you take from this podcast, which will be amazing. And yeah, I think this is a really good way to end the podcast. So Jasmine, do you have any closing remarks for the podcast?
No, thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed all of this.
Awesome. So yeah, for anyone who's still watching, feel free to take a look at some of our other stories as well. We're building a community here of passionate founders. Always believe in this storytelling where everyone has their own stories. Or if you want to come on, feel free to just also message myself. And yeah, I'll drop both of our bios in the description so you contact us. And until the next one, stay hungry, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.
Bye.